How y'all doing, everybody? Once again, I am back at it again for the second time in a row. I just did an NBA video, right? I went an hour talking about the biggest highlights for the NBA and what went on this weekend. But you know what? I haven't talked about NFL in quite some time, so and I know I've made a lot of promises with trying to talk about NFL, but here it is, man. So here I am. I'm Cash. This is CashSports / Cash Media, and we gotta run it back, right? So today we are going to talk about this whole Russell Wilson fiasco because I gotta be honest, man. Broncos country, let's rock. Like, nah. In all seriousness, though, this was a disaster for not only for the Broncos but for Russell Wilson at heights we can't even imagine. This first year with the Denver Broncos was a disaster. It was horrible. It was probably one of the worst seasons I have ever seen. And not just because Russell Wilson played bad, it's because everything that circulated around him, right? With the Seahawks, with Pete Carroll, with so many different things that just piled and piled and piled up. But you know what? It's gotten to the point where I gotta talk about it. I mean, I had this in the books for a while, but NBA, there's always just something going on in the NBA. So that's the reason why I just have to keep talking on it. Right. So here it is. Here's what we're going to be talking about. Right. So according to a report from The Athletic, right? So this dropped from The Athletic. Russell Wilson had asked the Seahawks ownership to allegedly, right, fire Pete Carroll and the general manager, John Snyder, in February of 2022, right? And then but Russell Wilson has came out and denied that, right? He's denied that. He denied the source. He's completely saying that, hey, this is not me. And I even have a tweet to kind of show how he felt, or at least, what he had to say about it. And then so this is what he had to say. I love Pete. He was a father figure to me, and John believed in me and drafted me as well. I never wanted them fired. All any of us wanted was to win. I'll always have respect for them and love for Seattle, right? But we all know people like to play, the whole PC route. People like to be politically correct. But we know behind closed doors, people are not what they seem to be, right? But I don't have any evidence to say Russell Wilson is lying. The source could be lying. The person who told them could be lying. Or this could just be one blown situation that just got out of control. But you know what? We have one piece of evidence that does support the fact that Russell Wilson was not happy in Seattle. And this was something that was growing over time, right? Remember, we even reached the point where Russell Wilson had given his agent, right, a list of teams that he wanted to be traded to, right? That in itself speaks volumes, right? It speaks volumes to how you think of the franchise, what the direction you think the team is headed to. And he was just not convinced. He was just not bought or sold on the future of the Seattle Seahawks, right? So it is what it is. But here's the thing, right? So the report highlights the tense relationship between Wilson and the Seahawks, with sources describing a dysfunctional situation that built up over time, right? Sorry about that. Just trying to get my notes properly together. It's kind of big. I had a lot of notes. Jesus Christ, man. Is it really that big? All right, okay. My fault. So let me repeat that. So basically, this highlights, the source is basically highlighting the dysfunctional situation that built up over time in his 10-year tenure in Seattle. Wilson, right, was ultimately traded to the Denver Broncos in March of 2022 for a haul that included multiple first round and second round picks and quarterback Drew Lock, who served as the backup to Geno Smith as the Seahawks made the playoffs in 2022. Right? However, the Broncos stumbled to a 5-12 record in 2022, leading to the firing of first-year coach Nathaniel Hackett and the hiring of Sean Payton. The Athletic also detailed issues with Wilson's first season in Denver, with players, coaches, and staff members questioning some of the control that the quarterback had, right? So if you guys were keeping up with the season, if you guys were following what was going on with, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, it was kind of all out there. Players were calling him out. We don't know if coaches were calling him out, but we know for damn sure, you had Broncos players looking at him sideways, giving him the side eye, looking at him crazy. Like, I'm talking about dead on sideline, looking at him like, bro, you are effed up. You are one effed up individual. Now, as a person, Russell Wilson's not that bad of a guy. Honestly, I think he's a bit corny, if you ask me. Sometimes he can be a little bit cringe. Broncos country, let's rock. Like that shit was corny as hell. Come on, man, you said that damn near after every press conference. But you know what? It is what it is, right? And then he was given his own personal office, right? His own personal office, something we had never seen any quarterback really have. And then when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, he had very limited access. He didn't have the same access that he did with the Broncos. So you can definitely say that he had special treatment. I mean, he was given a $245 million contract extension from the family that owns Walmart, right? So they were rushing the gun here. They were fully convinced on what Russell Wilson had to bring, and a large part of that, I mean, Russell Wilson. It's not like Russell Wilson before in the past was a shit quarterback. He was a great quarterback. He was a really good quarterback. There were times where he was in the conversation for MVP. He was playing up to that standard, which is why there was so much expectation with this Denver Bronco team. But obviously, it didn't get to that, right? They ended up 12-5. Broncos country, let's rock. All right, so Payton appeared, right? Sean Payton appeared to stifle some of Wilson's power earlier this month when the coach said at his introductory news conference that Wilson's personal quarterback coach, Jake Heaps, would no longer be in the Broncos facility, right? He came out, he said this out his mouth, right? He said that he doesn't recognize players having personal relationships behind the scenes in the facility and being part of some unofficial coaching staff, right? And then so afterwards, Sean Payton had also promised that Wilson and all of the Broncos players would be held to the same standard of discipline, toughness, and football makeup, right? So if any of you guys ever played sports, any of you guys ever played football, right? It's a team sport. Everybody needs to be held to that same standard. Once you have one guy that is out of the fray, that branches off and thinks that he's better than everybody, because that's the vibe that Russell Wilson was giving to the other players, that he was somewhat more important than everybody else, that he had some form of status or celebrity cachet, in the facility. But we all know when it comes to NFL, when it comes to football, it's always about what have you done for me now? What have you done for me lately? And Russell Wilson hasn't done anything for Broncos country. He hasn't done nothing for Broncos country, right? He hasn't even earned the right to say Broncos country, right? But here it is, man. So Payton Also, right? Sorry about that. Despite Wilson's push for Carroll's firing, the Seahawks opened the 2022 season by beating the Broncos. Yes, the Seattle Seahawks in week 1 were set up to go up against the Broncos, and they beat them 17-16 on Monday Night Football, with Wilson and Carroll briefly interacting in the postgame. Right? Now, we don't know exactly what went down, but we know that Pete Carroll was given a little bit of warning, talking about things. He wasn't really giving too much, but he was kind of glossing over the situation, giving a little bit of takes here and there, but not giving too much, and just letting everything fester, letting everything reveal itself. Right? Now, we don't know who exactly leaked the source. We don't know who exactly came out and said that Russell Wilson wanted Pete Carroll fired. But despite that, right, it still came out. So even if it's a lie, you already know what the public is going to believe. They're going to believe the most controversial story, right? And then so the Seahawks obviously got a considerable upgrade. Geno Smith, right, a team like the Seahawks, myself included, did not predict the Seahawks doing anything this year. And to be frank, the Seahawks exceeded expectations, being second in their division and going to the playoffs. I mean, ultimately losing to the San Francisco 49ers, but still, Geno Smith played extremely well, being one of the best quarterbacks when it comes to completion percentage. Their defense was improved based off the trades that they had made. They made some really great draft picks. And then they had a better offensive line. And not to mention, Kenneth Walker was nominated for Offensive Rookie of the Year, their running back, right? So because of this trade that Seattle had made with the Denver Broncos, they used those picks and Geno Smith to increase their roster or to better their roster, right? And then so now we're going into the NFL draft with the Seattle Seahawks having the Denver Broncos first round pick. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that was prior to everything going down. This story had recently broke as early as the 24th of February, right? Not just based off the tweet, but the actual article had came out the 24th of February, right? And then Russell Wilson obviously had to respond to the negative criticism that's been thrown at him. So I'm gonna be honest here. I mean, I wouldn't want to be Russell Wilson in this situation. He's catching a lot of heat for this situation. And that just goes to show, man, that sometimes quarterbacks can be divas. They can have attitudes. I mean, we see what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, right? These guys can be divas. And if you don't hold them up to standard, just like everybody else, like the rest of the team, then you get situations like this. Russell Wilson ain't no Tom Brady. Let's get that very effing clear. Russell Wilson ain't no freaking Tom Brady. So why the hell is he even being treated as such? Patrick Mahomes deserves an office in his facility. Give Patrick Mahomes an office. You could have given Tom Brady an office. Shit, even give Joe Burrow an office. But Russell Wilson, I gotta step back on that one. You know, those go to legitimate franchise quarterbacks. And it's not like Russell Wilson wasn't a franchise quarterback in the past. You know, he was that guy. We just don't know. We just don't understand why he has fallen this low when it comes to his play. I mean, the Broncos' offense was just putrid this year. It was horrible. It was the worst offense I've seen this year. They were garbage. They couldn't do anything. And their defense was actually decent. Their defense was actually good. So if their offense was just somewhat good, if they were able to produce anything, they would have been able to at least go to the playoffs. But they just couldn't score worth a damn. They couldn't do anything, man. So that's all I have for now. You know, there's not really a lot to really cover on this situation, but I just wanted to give my take. I wanted to give my opinion on what was going on. But what are your thoughts on this story? You know, let me know in the comment sections below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you guys want more sports news and updates, right? This is Cash Media / Cash Sports. Love you guys for tuning in and staying in tune. Keep watching what you're watching. Keep staying up to date and have a great day, right? Love you guys, man.